You know that we love DIYers around here. I mean, we encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and try something hard. Make something beautiful. Help your neighbors, help your family. We love that. It's a big part of what this channel stands for and we hope helps with. It's also a big part of what we talk about on Shop Talk at Essential Craftsman Academy. But drilling down on the fact that what you're watching right now is Dustin Furch and I pulling off, over the past 25 years, some pretty technical stamped concrete jobs. Dustin is a master, and we're going to have other videos of him really doing some high-tech stamped concrete jobs in various places around this part of the world. But here's the takeaway for this video. However much we admire and support and endorse DIYers, you got to be careful with concrete, and especially stamped concrete, because you can DIY until you DIE when it comes to concrete and stamping it. No matter what the pattern is, it will eat your lunch. What you're going to watch is a conversation with a bunch of guys who have become friends of mine when we helped a friend pull back from a project that was going to cost him thousands and thousands of dollars if he didn't change course at least a little bit. Thankfully, he did. Okay, so you've got it protected. Are you going to match the stamp, same color, integral color, surface hardener? What's your stamping process?
So it's a Roman stamp, and I don't know if you can see from that photo, he has an existing stamp around a fire pit over there in the upper right-hand corner. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that the stamp, it looks like what they did is they rotated 90 degrees, and then kind of leapfrogged. So I have two stamps from Amazon. They're Roman. And then if you look at the buckets right there, I don't know if you can see them, but that's it's going to be color. And then that's the seal in those buckets right there.
Okay. So did you pour that material that's under the visqueen right now?
Yeah, I've done it's just a one-man job, so I've done everything from the dirt work, right, the form up. And
those are pavers underneath the visqueen, Scott.
Those are pavers.
Yeah, they're pavers. Yeah, thank you.
Man,
sorry.
So
no, I didn't do the paver work
before.
I didn't do the paver work. The issue is that the sand, you can kind of see underneath the bender board there, the sand was eroding. So it's causing the pavers, the elevation on the pavers to kind of shift.
Okay, so have you poured the Roman cobble pavers, Roman cobble stamp before? Have you poured anything like that?
No, I've never done a stamp job before.
Oh man, you can't do this. You cannot learn on this. There's too much edge work. The stamps, there'll be detail work on top of detail work because the stamps do not fit that border. So when you stamp down in there, you'll get an impression out in the middle and no impression on the edges, and you'll have to be tooling it into your bender board as you describe it. There's a ton of detail work with this. I don't know how one man could do that.
Maybe small sections, because you could.
It's only 12 inches. Well, it's going to be 13 and a half when I take out the bender board.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like I said, I'm just doing it for a day rate.
Right.
And just trying to get a stamp job underneath my belt.
Okay, so what I would do would be to set up a 4 foot, a 13-inch by 6, and you're thinking of mixing this yourself or bringing in the portable batch?
Honestly, even for the footer, I think I bit off more than I could chew with the buggy.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna set, like I'm using a 5.5 board there on for my form work, and I was just gonna set the elevation, and snap a line, level with the pavers.
Okay.
And then basically just do, give it a good edge, do a couple trowel runs on it, and then go and do the stamp.
How long is that run I'm looking at right there? Is that 24 feet or something?
Yeah, exactly. It's 25 feet on each side.
Okay.
13 and a half wide by about 5 inches deep.
If that was me, I would set up a little throwaway piece somewhere and practice. I would not pour that in there. I wouldn't try that until I'd practice somewhere with those stamps, because if you're snapping gray down inside of there, unless those stamps are cut to 13 and a half inches so they'll drop right in, and you might get away with that.
That's a good idea.
Cut the stamps down so they'll drop right in. That might save you, and then do one side. Try one 25-foot side, but I would set up a little 7 or 8 or 10-foot strip somewhere where you can just break it up and throw it away as practice, and practice on that. 3/8 rock would be nice. Smaller rock moves out of the way of the stamp. And it's only the integral color, or are you going to throw surface hardener and color on the top?
I'm going to mix the color. This batch I was just going to do in his Harbor Freight mixer.
Right, and have it integral.
And then just, do it batch by batch, do like 3 or 2 80-pound bags, per run, and just get a little measuring thing and make sure that my ratios are good on the color. And
you've got to practice somewhere before you practice up against a $12,000 paver patio. You've got to practice this someplace, even if it's on your own dime. You have to practice this.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
What about just doing that? Looks like it's kind of a structural footing already. What about just wet setting that same paver and just setting it all in pavers instead of doing a stamped concrete at all, and just make it structural?
That's a pretty good suggestion.
It's a good idea.
And if they're not open to that, wet setting to hold it there. If they're not open to that, then you go practice somewhere with this, and you're gonna. Stamped concrete is a thing, and there's a fairly narrow window of time when it's hard enough to stand up to the stamping and soft enough that you can imprint the stamps, and then the challenge of getting the colors to match from batch to batch. You got to practice before you try this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the advice. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would say, in the backyard at the house, set up like a 4 or 6 foot run.
Yep.
And you might have to do it 2 or 3 times. I wouldn't mix your own, but what I would do is go grab some bags of concrete from Lowe's, mix them up. But he's right. You're going to be mixing 2 or 3 bags at a time. Maybe 6 bags, depending. I can't really tell that depth. You're going to get it in there. I would put a temporary block to hold it in place.
Set a header.
Get your stamps in place. And then, like Scott said, timing is important here. And so you're never going to be able to cut that line. So you're going to have a perfect edge when you pour the next section where you need to put that stamp to keep that Roman pattern in place. But spend $200 or $250 at home. Build you a little mock-up in the backyard of the same dimensions, a couple 6 feet long, and see what works. Yep. Maybe it'll teach you enough to do it fast, or you've got to do it in 4-foot sections. You never know.
And that's what I would pour a 4-foot section and let it get hard, and then come back and pour up against it, and you'll see the challenge of matching to you strip, getting something that looks good with an edge that looks good. It's a real deal, man. You got to practice.
Okay.
All right, Sean.
Sorry.
Good luck, man. This is a tough. Feel like I've been in this situation a lot in my life. I don't know why, but the project looks great. Your form, everything looks prepped.
Yeah.
And you'll probably pull it off. You seem like a guy who does great work, so you probably just have that touch where you'll pull it off, and we'd love to see it. Yes.
Good.
How'd it go?
Well, I really appreciate the feedback you guys gave me. You really saved my butt. And
good.
I followed instructions. And I can show you real quick. It was so hard, to be honest.
It's hard.
It's hard. And so I did a bunch of mock-ups in my backyard. I spent probably, I don't know, maybe $600-700 on getting all the right trowels, the stamps.
Mm-hmm.
I first tried to do the throw on, the casting. So I bought the casting stuff. And
okay, just a second. For those who don't know, there's 2 ways to do colored stamped concrete. One is to mix the color integral into the mix, so it comes out color all the way through. And the other way is to throw on surface hardener and color onto the top, and then a different color release agent for contrast. So that's what he's talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I tried that, and then getting my ratios with the color, it was challenging. Even on, you see just a little 8-foot mock-up.
Yep.
So, and then I didn't like the finished product. The color wasn't uniform and the stamp wasn't uniform. And that was just kind of the learning process. For the timing is so hard,
Yes.
like getting the timing just right.
It's hard.
And I've done a couple finished jobs, where I was kind of just like the apprentice, where I was just holding an edge and doing some basic stuff. So this was a big tackle for me.
Yeah.
Here's my second run. And so this one I switched to integral color. And one of the guys who's my buddy, he said, you need to go to the bubblegum spray.
Yes.
So I made those 2 changes, and I practiced that like 2 more times. And man, that was just such a big difference in terms of the quality of texture, the consistency of color, and being able to see the final result.
So when you say the bubblegum spray, you're talking about a release agent that you spray on there?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Yes.
the release spray. So here's how it came out.
Oh, you pulled it off, man.
Wow.
And I
Good.
actually had to chip out the back part here
Uh-huh.
because I listened to you guys about the bonding.
Yes.
And so I made sure it was at least 3.5 on this backside.
Uh-huh.
And I got all my joints and everything. I actually had I took a loss on the day, and I brought in my buddy who's like a really good finisher, because I'm
Okay,
more
good.
like a form guy,
Yes.
And so he came in and he really helped me out too. But I spent probably $1,000 to Marshall, giving them,
Yes.
buying but now I got all the tools, and I learned a little bit.
You said to Marshall, you mean to Marshalltown. You bought $1,000
Yeah,
worth of
Marshalltown.
tools.
I got all
Yeah.
these different trowels and floats.
Good. So
Uh,
let's just pause right there. Look at the great job he did of protecting those pavers. That was the most critical decision you made, man, because those pavers look nice, and that would have eaten your lunch if you would have got that color on there. So the big question is the client happy? Did they pay you? Did the check clear the bank?
Yeah, everything
Okay.
cleared. I actually got a referral now, and I'm doing a barn next door at the neighbors. So
Okay. Okay.
I took a little bit of a loss, but I'm still, I got to the next job. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's how it works. Congratulations, buddy. Sean, that was hard. And
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure glad that you put in the time to learn some of the pain and misery associated with that. Good for you.
Yeah, that's amazing, Sean. That I felt bad because I feel like I've been in that position of like wanting to do a job and everybody just like being like, don't do that. And I was feeling like, oh gosh, that's brutal. But this is amazing how well it turned out. Not that I'm surprised, but that is
Yeah.
very, very cool.
So, Sean, you're kind of a poster child right now for listening to hard advice and taking it and then investing the time and the money and just taking the loss to learn the lesson. Man, I'm proud of you. That was a big darn deal. And nobody that hasn't done that can relate to the anxiety of starting that in somebody's backyard and the colors and the mess that's being created and whether they trust you and do I trust myself? Good job. Well played.
thank you. I definitely lost some sleep over it, but
Yep.
I'm really grateful to everybody in the room, because I really did listen to the feedback, and you guys really helped me out. So thank you.
Great. So wrapping this up, maybe the takeaway is this. It's like Clint Eastwood famously said in Dirty Harry, right, years ago, a man's got to know his limitations. That's key. If you have ambition and courage and tools and you like to do stuff, we've got to know our limitations. So if you're uncertain, if the stakes are high, if the upside is here and the downside is way down there, find a mentor. Find somebody who knows something about what you know nothing about. Pick their brain. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes don't be afraid to open up your wallet, even if it's skinny, even if it hurts. Sometimes the money you spend on the front end is way less than the money you could have to spend on the back end. Maybe this is obvious, maybe it's not. It's a lesson that we all have to learn sooner or later. So you might just check out the Academy, because everybody who comes there, especially me, goes away every 2 weeks having learned something new and worthwhile. And my friends, that is important. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman. Keep up the good work.